Okay, we are back for another unboxing, and this time it's from Blackzon and it's the Smyter Turbo. Now, of course, some of you may know that I did an unboxing for a Smyter brushed edition a while back. Well, this is the brushless version. So all the Smyters that have turbo on them are actually brushless, and they've got a whole bunch of different upgrades and changes that they've made to these cars. The last time I had the Desert Buggy, this time I got my hands on the monster truck, which looks absolutely cool. So I'm really looking forward to testing this one out. So without further ado, let's get rid of that box, bring everything out here, front and center, and let's have a bit of a closer look at this guy. First and foremost, we're gonna go through what you get. Of course, you get the truck fully assembled and ready to go. You have your radio over here. You get a bag of goodies. So there's a tool here. There is like a little screwdriver. There's a wheelie bar you can put on the truck. A charger, like a little USB charger. On the other side, you've also got some spare body pins. And that is pretty much everything that you get in this bag as far as I can see. The manual, of course, is also included, and you get a sticker sheet for you to decorate the truck, because you can see there are no stickers on the truck at the moment. These are pre-cut. Yes, they are pre-cut, so you should be able to just peel them off and away you go. And then, of course, you get the instruction manual, which has exploded views of everything, and part numbers. I think it's in a couple of languages as well, which is handy, and it tells you everything that comes with the truck. I believe it has LEDs as well. The radio, some info on that, on what all dials and switches do, how many batteries it takes, which I think is 3 AA's by the looks of things. And yeah, indicators on the charger, how long it takes to charge, when it's done. All the relative information is here as per usual. So the radio we get with the Smyter Turbo is this funky looking radio here, which actually isn't too bad. I mean, it's a bit futuristic. Also retro at the same time. It's kind of weird how it looks. I'm not a big fan of the sort of holes in here, the way they've designed them. Kind of would have preferred maybe a bit more of a full hand, but that's neither here nor there. It's a minor complaint. The trigger does feel pretty good though, pretty well balanced, not too light, not too heavy. The wheel is plastic, but the springs actually don't feel too bad on it. And it's pretty well positioned. I think this will work quite well overall. It does run on 3 AA's, as you would have seen in the instruction manual. And then back here, we've got some dials. We have our steering trim, our steering dual rate, and we have our speed dial, which is essentially your throttle dual rate, where you can turn the throttle down or up depending on your skill level or who's driving. You can turn the top speed down a little bit. Reverse switches here for both steering and throttle. Couple of indicator LED lights to sort of monitor battery. Bind button in the middle, and then you've got your on-off switch just back here as well. Not a bad radio. I think it's going to do pretty well in a car like this. So moving on to the truck, this is what this little beast looks like. So keeping in mind that this is a 1/12 scale monster truck. It is brushless and it is 3S capable. I think looks wise, this actually looks pretty proportioned. It doesn't look too bad at all. I think the body might be a little bit wider than it should be or could be, I don't know. But proportion wise, I think it's all pretty well. It does have this like little roll cage on the top here. There are some LED lights in there. There's a couple more on the front bumper here. There's nothing on the back. But keep in mind that once you mount that wheelie bar, it's going to offer some rear protection back here. So overall, it's not a bad looking truck. And as you can see, it's still mounted on that same Smyter chassis that you would have seen in that brushed vehicle that I unboxed some time ago. So starting from the outside and working our way inwards, tires actually feel pretty good, very rubbery as well. I do like the tread pattern on this. I think these are actually going to do pretty well. It looks like there is foam in there, but it's very soft foam. And I think these are going to do pretty well on that BMX track. Suspension wise, unlike the brushed version, this brushless version comes with oiled field shocks, which is a big bonus, a big plus. And as you can see here, it's really nice and plush. I think overall this is going to perform really well. I'm really looking forward to running this, not just with the stock battery, but also on a 3S battery, provided of course I have one that fits in here, because I haven't checked that yet. So taking off the body, we'll quickly get rid of these body pins. The body pins have these little black tabs on them, make them easier to grip. Just keep in mind that these pins are not very strong, and I have lost quite a few of them over time running these. I do like the little plastic black bits. I just wish the pins were a little bit stronger and held on a little bit tighter to the body posts. Now keep in mind here, because you do have these LED light bar on top, it is tethered to the car via this little kind of coiled wire that you see here, which is actually a really good idea, because normally it's just a straight wire that people put on and then you forget about it. You go to yank the body and you start ripping wires out of places where they shouldn't be ripped out of. At least here you get a little bit of a spring action, and you can put the body to the side, change your LiPo battery, whatever, and then put the body back on, and you won't have wires kind of hanging out everywhere. So I do like this idea a little bit better. Now, for the sake of this exercise, I'm going to be very careful and remove this cable, because it's actually tied on just in here, and I can actually remove it. So just bear with me while I very carefully take this out, just so we don't have the body sort of in our way. Body-wise, it's a body. I'm not sure if it's Lexan or not, but hopefully it is. It lasts a little bit. It's going to have a little bit of protection through this little plastic protective roll cage that it has on top here. Yeah, and it's bolted on with a couple of screws there. I think this is going to hold up okay for the time being. Now, for the chassis itself, very much the same as the brushed version, but as you look a little bit closer, you're going to be finding quite a number of changes. First off, of course, as I said, you have oil-filled shocks. Now, these are aluminium caps. I think the bodies are plastic, and then you got an aluminium cap on the bottom, and they just feel really nice and plush. They feel really, really good. I'm really happy with how that looks. Bumper feels pretty good, nice and soft and plushy. I think it's going to take a few impacts there. Body posts are adjustable as well. And note what they've done here. They've actually got this little foam, I'm gonna see if the camera can actually focus on this properly. You got these little foam round discs on here to stop the body from rattling around and stuff. That's a really nice touch. I like that. That's very, very cool. We've got our brushless ESC, which it is a 2-in-1. So you do have the speed controller and receiver in one. Which again, it's going to make it a little bit tricky if you don't like the radio and you want to swap it out. You're going to have to change out the speed controller, as well as get a new radio for your truck as well. And then that's going to, you might need to mount your receiver on top of the servo or something like that, because yeah, at the moment it's all just in one here. So Dean's plugs with this one, which is not a problem. I don't have an issue with the Dean's on this truck. For the type of truck that it is, I think it's going to be fine. We do have a little bit of a heat sink on top of the brushless motor. What else? We've got a metal drive shaft going through there. We've got our nice little servo saver over here as well. We've got metal drive shafts and metal out drives as well. There are CVDs on the front, and we have standard dog bones in the rear. So with the brushed version, these were all plastic. And of course, if you're going to do a brushless conversion on the brushed version, you're going to end up with a few issues, as I would have mentioned in that unboxing. Suspension would have been a bit of an issue. Tires, obviously, because I think the one that I got didn't come with foam in the tires. I can't remember now. Or maybe it did, and it was very soft foam like this. I can't remember. But yeah, suspension would have been one. Drive shafts would have been the next thing that you would have had an issue with. And that snowball effect kind of starts when you want to upgrade it to a brushless car, that's really designed to be brushed. There are a number of components that they've changed on these cars to make them a little bit more brushless ready. Now, the battery included with this particular guy, I'll quickly take this one out here. We have a 7.4 volt, 1600 milliamp, which actually is not too bad at all. And I think I may have, going by what I'm seeing here, I think I may have a 3S battery that's going to be able to fit in here. Actually, I think I got a couple. So they're only going to be like a 1000 milliamp, but to fit in this tray, I think I'll be able to manage and get them to fit in here. We're able to run this thing on 3S, which I've been told is a lot of fun, and I cannot wait to try it out. So A-arms are pretty much the same as they were on the brush. We've got fixed steering links over here, fixed steering link between the servo and the actual steering mechanism here at the front. LED wires, you can see, going to the front bumper here. It's pretty much everything that you need to know about this guy. I don't know the kV of the motor off the top of my head, but I will put it on screen right now so you guys can actually see what the KV is, as well as the ESC. Everything's buried in here. I can't see any numbers, so I'll put that up on screen as well, so you guys know exactly what you're getting. All right, enough jibber jabber. Let's take this thing out for a spin, and then we'll come back and summarize what the Smyter Turbo is like to drive. All right, stock battery with the 2S lithium ion. Tell you what, it's a little bouncy, even feels a little stiff again. So I just finished driving the Omni Terminator, and it's about the same size as this, believe it or not, and it had very similar characteristics. This one bounces even more, I think. Wow. Yeah, that suspension is not tuned right at all. Just bounce, bounce, bounce. I mean, it's definitely better than what it would have been if you didn't have oil-filled shocks. But maybe I don't know, maybe I'm being too harsh on it? Because it's a 12 scale? It shouldn't be doing that. It shouldn't be going womp, womp, womp. And then, of course, because the suspension is not, like the tyres aren't constantly making contact with the ground, when you go to turn or do anything like that, the car just spins around, see? Weird. It almost did a wheelie then. Okay. Yeah. Alrighty. I don't want to waste too much time here, so let's go straight to the jumps. Alright. Let's see if we can line this. Whoa. Tyres aren't great, but the ground isn't good either. She's a bit nose heavy. A bit nose heavy. Took the hit though. Took the hit. Right. Let's see if we can line her up a little bit. Get some speed on. There we go. Stay upright. Oh, thank you. Yeah. It's possible that the shock oil might be too thick. Too thick, you know what I mean? Just stiffen it up the suspension a bit too much. I don't know. Or maybe it's not thick enough. Hey, had a good jump that time. Yeah, I'm struggling here. You guys don't understand. I'm struggling for grip. The handling isn't great. The bouncing around isn't very good either. I was gonna do the 2S and the 3S video back to back, but I think I might need to rethink that strategy, because 3S in this at the moment, I can't imagine it would be a lot of fun. I mean, it'd be crazy fun, but like the handling is just there's a lot of rebound. A lot of rebound. And then it just wants to nosedive constantly. You don't get that jump right. Yeah, I think... I have to keep the throttle pinned. Normally I would blame the tyres for grip on this one, but I can see the suspension has probably got about 70% of the blame here. If you can't keep the tyres on the ground, if the thing's just bouncing around everywhere, it doesn't matter what tyres you have, you're not going to get grip. You can see it's just jolting as it's trying to run. It's constantly just
bouncing around. I'd be curious to see what the other models are like, because the other models have got different tyres, obviously. But that was smooth. Unintentional. That was really smooth. There's nowhere near enough power to do that. Not on 2S, maybe on 3S we could do it. Yeah. Okay. Let's take this one back to the bench, and I think we might have to revisit this this car on the 3-cell with a bit of a tune, and see if we can fix any of these little issues that it's got at the moment, which is really just one, which is I think the suspension just isn't doing this thing any favours. Couple that with, you know, pretty standard tyres. I'm not expecting these tyres to be, you know, offer any sort of magic grip, but if we can get the car to handle better, I think the tyres will then show us exactly what they're capable of. Alrighty, back to the bench.
So the Blackzon Smyter Turbo, what are my final thoughts on this guy? Well, as you would have seen through the running video, my major complaint was really grip. And I think a lot of that is attributed to the suspension setup on this car, which just isn't quite there. It's definitely better than the brushed version, but this one I think still has a little bit of tweaking that needs to happen. Now, what I did find is that the rear suspension is probably a little bit more plush than the front, and you can see that it's probably sagging a little bit now. The front definitely feels a lot stiffer, has a lot more rebound, and yeah, the suspension just isn't quite tuned correctly. I'm going to have a little bit of a play with it before I take it out on 3S. Speaking of 3S, I did run it on 3S just very briefly up and down the car park off camera just before I put it away after that 2S run. The battery I was running was this little guy right here, which is a 1000 milliamp 3-cell, and of course I had an adapter here to go from the XT30 to the Deans, and this just fits in the car. I did have to cut a little tiny bit of plastic. There's a little tiny bit of plastic just on the end of this screw here that kind of sticks out and almost hits this battery. I don't know what that's there for, but I cut it out and got rid of it, and it allowed me to fit my 3S battery a lot better. I could also run the Velcro there a lot easier and strap the battery in. So that's a little tip there that you guys can do if you're going to be running this car on 3-cell. You know, it does have the right upgrades, right? So you've got the metal drive shafts, the brushless system, the oil-filled shocks. It does have some decent tires, I think. I'm curious to see how these are going to perform once I tweak the suspension and kind of make that a little bit better, hopefully. Hopefully I don't make it any worse. And we'll see, right? We'll play around with it. Maybe I'll bring a spare set of tires and try them and see how the car performs with something else. But overall, you know, performance-wise, it's okay, right? It's not doing anything extraordinary, but it's also not underperforming either, I feel. So it's pretty much on par. And to give you an idea of where this sits in the market price-wise here in Australia, these retail for about $250, which I know some of you outside of Australia might think that it's a little bit high for such a small car, brushless and all this sort of thing. But you know, the value of our dollar is actually quite low at the moment, and everything's really expensive in this country right now. So relatively speaking, right, in relative terms to other products that you buy from your local hobby shop or online, this is actually not priced all that bad, okay? You've got a Blackzon where you have heaps of parts available at local hobby shops and online. It's backed by HPI, which means you know it's going to be around for a while, and you know you're going to be able to get service, parts, all these sorts of things. It's a product that's, I think, is it gives you a little bit more confidence in driving something like this, as opposed to like one of those off-brand things that I've reviewed in the past from, you know, online stores, which are a good cheap fix, right? But ultimately, when something goes wrong with those, you either buy another one or you bin it, right? Because parts are going to be so hard to get. at least with this one, you got a little bit of backup with it, and you can get it locally as well. And to put it into perspective, as you know, as far as the price goes, about 5 or 6 years ago, when I used to work at Metro Hobbies, we were selling the ECX Amp, which is a 2-wheel drive brushed monster truck or buggy, depending on which design you wanted. They were both the same platform. You could buy one of those for $250 with a nickel metal battery and a charger. So this is 4-wheel drive, it's brushless. Yes, it's a little bit smaller, but you're getting much better tech here, I think, and much better performance out of this thing, especially considering that it can handle 3S and it does wake up quite a bit. And I'll be doing a video of that on 3S in the near future once I get a bit of time and I can, you know, tune the shocks, go out there and run this thing and show you what it can do. So overall, I'm going to leave this one here. It's a nice, neat little package. LED lights, battery, charger included, brushless power system. Probably just needs a little bit of a tweak on the suspension and I think we'll be good. Yeah, that's where I'll leave this one. Thank you all very much for watching. If you're still here right at the end, be sure to give the video a thumbs up before you go. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll be speaking to you all next time.